Well, uh, this might be a good time to talk about how I spent my missing decades. Um, I went summer quarter to Ohio State after I returned from the Army. Actually, I I went several quarters. I was still fishing around for what exactly I wanted to major in because tuition was cheap back then and you could afford to just loiter around from one quarter to the next on campus, taking courses that appeal to you, you may find interesting enough to even make a major. And I was just starting that process when I bought a motorcycle. It was a Kawasaki 350. And that was my means of transportation for a long time. And soon after that, I lived with a couple guys, Ken and Larry. And one weekend, Jeannie was visiting from Cincinnati because she was still a senior at the University of Cincinnati. She was a nursing major. And she'd come to Columbus every Friday night because she didn't want to stay in Cincinnati and she wanted to stay with me. So it was me and Ken and Larry, and we lived in a half double. We each had our own bedroom. Total rent was $85 a month. Crazy. Larry got stoned one Saturday night. The rest of us are upstairs asleep in our bedrooms. Sunday morning, we come down to find this big strip of charred wallpaper, and Larry had fallen asleep and not realized that a homemade candle that he had fond of making actually ignited. The wax melted and somehow came into contact and was flammable enough that it actually did flame. And who knows what could have happened, but fortunately Larry got up and, we were pissed at him, and I decided I don't want to live here anymore. So I got a place all by myself on 9th, West 9th, no, it was 8th, West 8th and Hunter, and parked my Kawasaki down there. And I was there for a couple quarters. I know I was there the quarter of Carole King. Carole King burst into popularity with her album Tapestry. And you just couldn't walk down the street without hearing a cut from the album. So I'll always make that connection. I had a good friend named Barbara Frankenfield that I'd met at Larry's, and she was a photographer. We had a birthday same day, but 2 years apart. She was an amateur photographer, and she taught me a little bit about processing my own film. And because I lived by myself in this, at least a 2-bedroom apartment, I built, wasn't much building required, but I did make a dark room, and I made some shitty contact sheets, I think. So, but anyway, I decided by the end I was through with Columbus, but I wanted to take one more quarter. And at that time, summer quarter was divided into 2 terms, first and second. So I could take a quarter's worth of work, double up in just 5 weeks in June and part of July. I did that, but I had to arrange it so that I didn't have to pay any more rent than necessary in that place. So somehow I found it somehow I found myself back with Larry and Ken. I don't know how I asked, because, I really did unceremoniously leave. So, but we're all together again, and then I took my Kawasaki and said goodbye to Jeannie, because now Jeannie is a brand new nurse at Mansfield General Hospital, and she's already found a place to live. And I thought, well, someday, Jeannie, we're going to get together, and we're going to want to move to Colorado. So I'm going to go out there and scout it. I headed out of Columbus with nothing but a sleeping bag and a knapsack, and which I called a rucksack. in honor of Jack Kerouac. And at that time, Becky had moved in with her boyfriend that I had introduced them to uh, because he and I were friends in Vietnam. And that was Bob Buckland, who I called Buck. So did Larry. Um, they lived in Buck's hometown then, near Green Bay, Wisconsin, called, it was either Neenah or Menasha. They're like sister cities, and they're right on a just gorgeous lake with crystal clear water on it. And everybody that lives up there calls it God's country. So I stayed just a couple of days with Becky and Bob, and then I took that motorcycle across Wisconsin, across Minnesota, all the way across South Dakota. I arm wrestled an Indian on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. I camped up in the Black Hills. Actually, I crashed with a newlywed couple from Chicago that had just gotten married, and their honeymoon was they were camping on this lake in the Black Hills. And I don't remember the details, but they invited me to hang out with them, which I thought was kind of strange. Then I headed south because my goal was Greeley, Colorado, because my former roommate from college, Dean Hissett, who we called Frosty, Dean lives there now, and I figured, back in those days, it was like nothing to drop in on somebody, announced or unannounced, and fully expect them to put up with you for days and weeks at a time. But that's exactly what happened. I moved in with Dean and Bev. God, she was beautiful. And I got a job. Now, Dean already had a job. And he was about to become a truck driver, actually. And Dean was, he was kind of a mentor to me in a lot of ways because he was older than me, but very, very well read. So when he moved into the dorm, his mom and dad's helping him move in. And he's got these volumes of classic works of Western civilization. Why he was bringing those to a campus where he was supposed to be learning all new stuff, I don't know. But anyway, that was Dean. They never asked me to leave. I got a job as an overnight janitor at a country club where, I know, Dean was a bartender there, that's why. So, I know I spent it was August 26, 1971, so I spent my 23rd birthday there because I took my motorcycle and went out to head towards the rising sun, and I'm kind of parked among all these irrigation canals out where they grow sugar beets. And got the bright idea, well, I'm tired. I miss Jeannie. I want to get on and plan our lives together. So I rode the bike down to a motorcycle shop in Denver, sold it to them, got a 24-pack, a case, of cans of Coors beer, which was still that exotic mystery beer that was unavailable in Columbus. So if you knew somebody that was going out west back in those days, you would always ask them to remember you and bring back either Coors or Olympia beer. Olympia, we called it Oli. It was from Tumwater, Washington, a suburb of Seattle. But they were both very popular, probably because I didn't find that they tasted that much different from Stroh's. A little lighter, but they were in novel cans at that time. Very, very lightweight aluminum can with a pull tab, so you didn't have to use what we called a church key to open up the can of beer like we always did before. It was a pull tab that was on the Coke cans. They transferred it to the Coors. So anyway, I'm carrying this, my rucksack and my sleeping bag and this pack or case of Coors to the airport. Bought a ticket, one-way ticket to Columbus, and Jeannie came and picked me up, and we went to Mansfield, and a week later we were married. Our sheepdog, Nelson, was a puppy then, very soft fur, and we were married by the mayor of Mansfield in his offices, and Ken, my roommate, and Cheryl? Anyway, a fellow nursing student that was Jeannie's friend, they were our witnesses. They drove up from Columbus and Cincinnati, and so there's the four of us there with the mayor of Mansfield reading out of the Bible, and there's little puppy Nelson on the floor. I think Jeannie had gotten a special ribbon for him. So I stayed in Mansfield, got a job at Westinghouse, which was, Mansfield was a company town back then, and that was, until they put in the Fisher body plant, that was the number one employer. It ran, they built, that was where the laundromat division was, so they manufactured washers, dryers, and commercial laundry machines. Huge place, ran around the clock. And, you know, within walking distance, you had factory bars. I remember my first day on the job, I think, you know, you get a half hour, 45 minutes for lunch. Most people pack their lunch. You know, I soon learned to do the same. But I thought I'd explore the neighborhood, and I'd walk up the street, went into this factory bar that looked like they served food, and they did serve food, but I requested a chocolate milkshake. And the woman, literally, her facial expression changed, and she kind of furrowed her forehead and narrowed her eyes and looked at me, and she said, "We don't make those here." And I go, "Well, can I get a glass of milk?" Again, "We don't make those here." They wanted to sell me a greasy burger probably, and a beer for sure. So, like I said, after that I packed my lunch. Worked at Mansfield, or Westinghouse until June. And Jeannie and I had it all planned. She was going to give her notice way ahead of time, and we were going to load up our house, which it was a half of a double. We had some furniture, and we loaded it up into a U-Haul. And we had the Volkswagen bus, and we had the MG. It was a sports car I bought from my dad. It was an MG sports car made in Britain. And I towed the U-Haul in the Volkswagen bus, and we made it all the way out to Greeley, Colorado. And again, the intention was, it was like John Denver, you know, it was like Rocky Mountain High sort of thing. And it just, for a lot of reasons, Jeannie's mom got sick.